Right, I've been eagerly awaiting the arrival of the Moto Morini X-Cape to the New Zealand market. With the Lamb's classification, adjustable suspension and switchable ABS, the X-Cape ticks many of the boxes newcomers and experienced adventure riders alike are looking for. But what is it like in reality? We all know things can be different from spec sheet to in person, so I was lucky enough to have this bike for a couple of weeks to find out just what it's like. So, while the local adventure market is certainly heating up with the arrival this year of a plethora of new models, from my point of view, of all the new bikes, it's the Moto Morini X-Cape that seems to really hit a sweet spot on what it is offering for adventure riders. While it lacks the ground clearance of a more off-road focused bike, the X-Cape looks like it could be the biggest competition to Suzuki's incredibly popular and long-lived V-Strom 650 that we've seen to date. As with a lot of brands entering the New Zealand market recently, Moto Morini mixes Italian design with Chinese manufacturing to bring a stylish design in at an affordable sub $13,000 price point. Apart from the portly 213 kilo dry weight, the specs of the X-Cape read quite nicely for a Lamb's adventure steed. The X-Cape's ground clearance comes in at 175mm, while the suspension is fully adjustable and supplied by Marzocchi. You've also got two rider modes which change the display on the 7-inch TFT dash, and most importantly, switchable ABS comes as standard. That's impressive stuff for a bike that retails from as low as $12,990. Despite only being a Lamb's spec motorcycle with a claim of 44 kilowatts of peak power from its CF Moto supplied 649cc parallel twin engine, European A2 restricted versions, by the way, are rated at a low 32.5 kilowatts. The X-Cape itself brings to the table an impressive value proposition against the established bikes of the game, namely, again, the aging V-Strom from Suzuki, which also comes in Lambs. And on top of that, the crop of new 500cc parallel twin offerings from Honda, Benelli and more. So, in a rare move for an entry-level bike, the X-Cape suspension comes from Marzocchi with fully adjustable forks up front and a similarly adjustable unit out the back. Braking is also respectable, being supplied by Brembo and backed by the mandatory ABS. In the cockpit is a huge 7-inch TFT dash with built-in phone connectivity plus the ability to switch between various displays and vehicle info. The X-Cape comes with the ability to not only switch between two ride modes of ride and off-road, but in its off-road mode, the rider can switch off the ABS, highly desirable feature for riders who like to take on more challenging terrain or ride gravel roads. Not that you're really going to tackle hard enduro terrain on the Moto Morini, with that 175mm of ground clearance and a 19 and 17-inch wheel combo. Think of the X-Cape more as an all-roads type of adventurer rather than a bike to scramble up a riverbed on. If there's one area the Moto Morini feels its price point, it's in its plastic bodywork, which doesn't feel like it will react well to a fall. There is a lot of plastic on this bike, and it kind of makes the bike feel a bit cheap. For riders interested in taking this bike to its adventure limits, it would be advised to splurge on the accessory protective parts with a full set of crash bars and a skid plate priced at $469 each. You definitely will want that skid plate too, as just like the V-Strom it's going up against, this has a automotive style scroll-on oil filter that is a bit vulnerable. However, with that small investment, you have a well-sorted adventure tourer that punches well above its price point. Despite its high-tech specs, the Moto Morini is priced on the money with the cast alloy entry-level model priced from just $12,990. If the gold spoked rims catch your eye, the price jumps to $13,790, and this is the top spec with the gold wheels. Still well under its most direct competition, which retails for $14,000. So, after collecting the Moto Morini from Europe Imports in Auckland, I wasted no time in testing out its all-roads ethos on my long ride home, and I detoured via Mount Pirongia on the way back south. Even with the ABS still turned on, the bike felt tremendously planted in the gravel and had enough power to get you into trouble. A fun feature of the big dash is the background changes depending on the time of day and which ride mode you have selected. Off-road mode is by far the coolest looking, even if I couldn't quite detect if it made any difference to the bike's power delivery. The tacho changes to a dirt bike tyre, and that changes colour as the revs rise. Speaking of revs, the Moto Morini X-Cape doesn't suffer from that brick wall in its power delivery that some other Lamb's bikes do. Instead, as the revs get to about 5500 RPM, the bike surges forward with more gusto, meaning you can really have some fun or take it easy and tour. Touring comfort is quite good, although the factory adjustable windscreen tended to create a lot of unwanted buffeting when I wore my Peaked Adventure helmet. It is easily adjustable, you can do it with one hand, but the screen itself created a lot of turbulence. There is an accessory touring screen available, which I would hope would alleviate this problem, as the rider protection from the elements is otherwise pretty good, and thanks to that large fairing. The seat is quite comfortable and narrows at the tank end to help the rider more comfortably get a foot down, while behind it is a small but rather sturdy feeling luggage rack. To pick some nits, the Moto Morini X-Cape does have a few weaknesses that come with a bike of this price point. The TFT, for instance, isn't the most feature-packed when compared to other ADV bikes, though it does offer tyre pressure monitoring among its features and is quite easy to read for the most part. I wasn't a huge fan of the fuel gauge display, which is represented in a number of small bars on the lower portion of the screen. It's not particularly easy to see where your fuel level is at a glance. Physically, the bike is quite solid apart from the already mentioned fairings, which probably won't take impacting the ground well. Another possible weakness is the ABS sensors and their wiring, which seem to be potentially vulnerable in rougher terrain. In a nutshell, the Moto Morini isn't perfect, but if it is a capable, LAMS-approved all-roads tourer you're looking for, the X-Cape 650 offers some of the best value for your money in the current market.
So this is New Zealand to the T. Coming around a gravel road corner, and look, sheepies! Hi sheep!